Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Old Time Rock and Roll. I'm your host, David Tear, where I've been featuring my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era from 1954 to 1999. And today I'm up to song number 2688, and that one is For Your Eyes Only by Sheena Easton. This was released in 1981, and it was both released as a single, which I think went to number 4, as well as on the soundtrack to a James Bond movie, which it was written for, called For Your Eyes Only. And it was one of many, many James Bond movies. This one came out the same year as the song, 1981. As a matter of fact, it featured Sheena Easton singing it at the beginning. Here's a picture of Sheena Easton. You can sing it. You see her singing it along with the intro to the movie. Pretty song, she had a very nice voice. She had a lot of big hits. But I guess first I want to talk a little bit more about For Your Eyes Only. So let's go back to the movie poster. I'm a pretty big fan of James Bond. At least the old movies. I mean, I didn't really like any of the movies after about 1985. Especially the ones after the Cold War. They're mostly about the Cold War. I mean, they were written by a very famous British author named Ian Fleming. He wrote 12 James. He invented James Bond and wrote 12 James Bond novels, I guess, in the 50s and early 60s. He died in 1964. I think he died of lung cancer because he smoked a lot. But actually, I think he was actually in the British Secret Service himself. That's how he got inspired to write the James Bond stories. He was one of the. I saw a movie recently. I can't remember the name of the movie, but it was kind of about his division of the British army. I think they had kind of secret agents, or they had these people who sort of they kind of lived on the edge. They kind of made their own rules and did things their own way, but they helped defeat the Germans during World War II. I wish I could remember the name of that movie. But I know that Ian Fleming was on this team, and that his work with him was what inspired him to write his James Bond stories. And I think you guys, most of you, probably all of you, have seen at least one James Bond movie, and they're very entertaining. I mean, it was very much. I think it was very much a product of the Cold War. I mean, he was a British secret agent, but he was usually fighting the Soviets. There's usually some horrible Soviet madman. I don't know if they're always Soviets. Sometimes they're just madmen. We're trying to take over the world. Kind of like the Illuminati. I mean, they had people, they had the organizations like Spectre, they had really horrible villains like Goldfinger or Drax, were trying to take over the world with some harebrained man scheme. They're fun movies, but I guess him and along with his Secret Service, they'd always managed to defeat these horrible enemies. And he had all his fancy gadgets, which M would give him. Develop all these really amazing technological gadgets designed to kill bad guys, basically. And they're fun. They're fun. I don't know how realistic they are, but they're fun movies, and I think they've inspired a lot of other things in our popular culture as well. There were a lot of spot TV spy shows in the mid to late '60s. A lot of them were sort of spoofs of James Bond. There was The Man from Uncle. There were several others. I can't even think of some of the others. And there have been James Bond spoofs too. I mean, some of my favorites were the Our Man Flint. There were a couple of movies. There was Our Man Flint and In Like Flint. I guess they were sort of the Americanized versions of James Bond. They had an American spy named Derek Flint. And just like James Bond, he was a big womanizer. That's another thing I didn't mention about James Bond. I mean, he had, I don't know how many women he was supposed to have had sex with, hundreds, maybe even thousands, But, that was kind of part of his job. I mean, he would seduce all these bad women, mostly women who worked for the bad guys. He would, he was so irresistible that he would turn most of them around and, get them to turn against their boss. There was that famous scene where he did that with Pussy Galore and Goldfinger. She was one of the Golden Girls. She was the one in charge of the guys who were supposed to attack Fort Knox and steal their gold. But James Bond turned around, and that's how he was able to defeat Goldfinger. So they're fun movies. I mean, you can't take them too seriously, but they're fun. And actually, I didn't really talk about this one, For Your Eyes Only. It was I wasn't crazy about this one. I mean, I haven't seen it since it came out. I think I only watched it once when it first came out in 1981. I wasn't that thrilled by it. I like most of the other ones. I think I saw all the original ones. I haven't seen, I guess, a lot of the new ones, but I saw all the ones that were based on Ian Fleming's novels, and most of them were very good. And my favorite James Bond was Sean Connery. Roger Moore was pretty good too, I think, but the other ones I wasn't so crazy about. I guess who was it? Timothy Dalton. I think he was in The Living Daylights. He wasn't too bad, but I didn't like any of the other James Bonds, and I especially don't like the new movies. They kind of changed, the focus. It was more like they were usually, Islamic terrorists who were the bad guys. I guess after the end of the Cold War, after the Soviet Union fell in 1991, they started doing new James Bond movies where now that the targets were basically Arabic people. So I don't like how they changed them. And I mean, it's another problem with James Bond. He never gets old. They always found replacements for him. So even though the original movies, I guess, took place in the early '60s, I think they're still making them today. I don't know when the last James Bond movie was made, but I stopped watching them a long time ago. And and the characters got very old too. They never replaced Moneypenny. There was one, I don't remember her real name, but they kept the same Moneypenny from the '60s through the '90s, and she got horribly old by the end and not attractive anymore. And poor Moneypenny. She had a big crush on James Bond, but she never got any action from him, which I think was too bad. But anyway, enough of that. So that's kind of my review of For Your Eyes Only and James Bond in general. And thank you for watching. James Bond says thank you, sir. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.